Welcome back to Learning Partner. So many of you were asking how do we implement AG or the prime AG. So in this video, I'm going to explain how do we use AG. Setup is very easy. From the documentation provided by AG only, we will try to follow so that you can also face the same issue, and whatever fixes we need to do, you can also do the same. So this is just their site. So while if you need this site, what you have to do, AG grid Angular, because AG grid is provided, AG grid provides for the JavaScript, Angular, and React also. So you need to specifically search for Angular. So once you click on this, the first site, you will land on this page. Now, this is a third-party library, so we need to obviously install it. So here is their command. So let's try to install this. Let's open a new terminal. You can use any project. This is just an existing project I use for YouTube videos. So npm install aggrid. So this is my command which will install the aggrid in my local project. Once this is installed, it will upload the package.json. So it will add one entry to the package.json. So you can see aggrid, whatever the latest version they had, 31.0.3. This is the latest version they have. It is being installed. Now, let me just close it, everything. Once we do the installation, let me just add over here also. So this is the command to add to install aggrid. Once aggrid is installed, after that we need to add the CSS, just like Bootstrap. We install the Bootstrap. After that in Angular.json, we add their, what do we say, links. So in Angular.json, we need to add the aggrid CSS links in the style section, just like the Bootstrap. So that also provided over here. Just you have to scroll down. This is nothing but their path. So in the node module also, you can see the same path. So if I expand node module, then we will have aggrid. Where it is aggrid? Yeah. So here aggrid community dist folder, CSS, whatever the path we are going to add, that is already provided over here once we install. So after this, in double quote, we need to add this, comma, and we need the theme also. So let's just copy it. So this is for the theme. Right. Second part, in angular.json, you need to add these two entries. In styles array, add below lines. This is the second step you need to do. Right. Now, coming back to like what things we are going to see in this particular video. How do we create the basic table using aggrid? Once you do that, once you try to implement the basic table now, you will face the error like it is not taking the full width on, let's say in table we just have two columns, so it will just take minimum space and the remaining space will be blank. So how do we make it full width? How to format the data using CellRenderer, how to add the filter, import and how do we export? Like we can export it to CSV or the Excel file. Inline editing, how do we enable the inline editing? Row selection, we can make single or multiple pagination. Like what are the things we can do in the pagination? So all these things we are going to do. So we have installed the package, we have added the CSS into angular.json. Let's save it. Once you do the install, once you add the CSS to angular.json, make sure you run the application again. Then only the CSS effect will run. Now, in pages folder, this is the component I have created. So here, what I'm to in this component, I'm obviously when we talk about table, we need the data. So I'm going to make use of the JSON placeholder API to get the data. So this is the API. Sorry. This is the API which I'm going to use. So in this API, we actually get 10 records. So let's try to use that. Constructor, we need to make the API call. So I'm creating private HTTP client object. Before this, you need to add HTTP client module in your What do we say? App module. So this dot http dot get, and we need to pass the URL, and dot subscribe method. We need to get the data, whatever we get. We need one variable to store the data. So user list colon any. This is going to be array of object. Whatever the response we get, that we will hold it over here. This dot user list is equal to res. Now on the page load, we need to call this API call. So let's implement on init lifecycle hook implements on init. Once we implement, we need to import, we need to create the function ng on init. And in ng on init, we will call this function. Right now, once this component load, we are making the API call, whatever the data we get that we have stored in the user list. Now let's come back to the aggrid page. So now the basic implementation. When we talk about aggrid, so first we have to create a column array. Like what are the columns I'm going to have? So if you see, this is a basic implementation. I'm just copy pasting from here only so that you also face some issue that I want to explain. First, column definition, it will need, let's see if it is suggesting, it is not suggesting. Let's check their code. In every page, they have provided the sample example code also. So you can check that and you can use that. Let's use that import. Right now. So column definition is like, what are the columns I'm going to have in my table? So if you see the API, so you can see these are the various fields. So let's say name. This is one field I'm going to have. Then username, what number of column you want to show? Username, and let's say email. Only 3 columns we are going to create for now. Let's remove the last one. So here we have created the column list. Like these are the columns we are going to have in my table. Next thing, the selector. So here, this is the aggrid selector. This is nothing but a reusable component, but we are using their component. Just like we create our reusable component, there we have inputs and output. So whatever you see in the square bracket, these are nothing but input. So let's copy this. Let's paste it over here. So dot row, let me just create column structure. Now, one more I forgot. In app module, you need to add the aggrid angular. So if I remove this, then you will face one error. So it won't recognize like what is aggrid. So in app module, you need to add this aggrid angular module in your import section. Then now row data. So column definition we have already created. This variable column depths, right? This we have provided to the column definition inputs. Now we have row data. Row data is nothing but the actual data, the array you have to pass. So we have stored the array into user list. So let's pass this over here. Now let's save it and let's check it if we are able to render the aggrid. Let's just index because I'm just doing the same thing because this also, whatever the issue I'm saying, you are also going to face. So for that, I will explain like what you need to do. So if you see here, the grid is rendered, but it is not taking the height and the width and everything. It is there. You can see here, grid is rendered, but it is not visible. So for this, you need to do some changes. First, here we need to add the height. So let's go over here, just like the inline CSS style height. Let's say 500 pixel. We will try for now. Let's save. So now you can see data is coming properly, but still we are not able to see the proper table, right? After that, we need to specify the width also. Let's try to provide the width 100%. Let's see if it takes the 100% width or not. Still, it is not taking. Now, we need to add a class that will, what do we say, for a theme. Like aggrid is a third-party library. They have free version and the paid version also. So we have to add the theme. So ag theme and quads. So this is a class we need to add. Let's save. So now you can see we are something we are able to see just like a table. But the problem we can see, we just had 3 columns. So remaining space is empty. But what ideally should happen, all these 3 columns should take an equal width. So for this overall table, we need to create one more variable. That is default column definition. So let's create default column definition. This is an object, and here we need to add flex property. Flex, let's say 1. Then we need to provide minimum width also. Let's say 100 value. And let's just remove this. And this we have to provide over here. And the input will be column, default column def. So just like this, let me just press enter. So all the input we will provide one by one. Square bracket, default column definition. And here we have to provide this variable which we have just created. This will go over here. Let's save all and let's test one more time. Now it should take the full width. Still it is not taking, not saved. Yeah. Now you can see we just had 3 columns. So now all these 3 columns are taking equal space. Means whole 100% width, like 50-50, whatever it is dividing whole table space into our equal width. So this is my basic table implementation. What we have did, let's just see one more time. So first we have to create the column definition, like what are the columns we are going to have. And in field, you need to provide the actual property name, what you have in your array. Then this is an extra thing, that is default column head, because we need to provide the flex value, right? And this we have to provide over here. Let's just open this side by side so that it will be easier, right? And height also we need to provide, because by default it doesn't have the height. So we need to provide the height. In row data, we have to provide the actual array name where we have the data, column definition, the default column object we have created, right? So these things we have done. Now, let's say username is the field name. So here you can say username is there, but let's say I need my specific column name. So that also we can give. So let's try that now. So the property head field in the column definition, we have a field that is nothing but the actual property name from your array of object, right? Then we have header name property. And this will be your title. So let's say name. Let's try for this header name. Let's say user space name. And here email, just like this. Now if we save, now you will get the labels whatever we have provided. See, name, username, and email hyphen. So if you need if you need to pass your custom header column name, so this property you have to use, that is header name. Right? So our basic basic implementation is done. Then making full width is also done by providing the call definition and flex. Now, the third point is how do we format the data using CellRenderer? So CellRenderer is a thing. Let's say if we are not using aggrid, we have total control on the TD. Like if you need to display some value, if you have first name, last name, and you need to join that, you can do that, right? But here, if you see the HTML, you cannot see TD, where you cannot where you cannot join something, or you cannot add a pipe or something else. So for that, aggrid has provided a cell renderer. Now let's explain that. Like, what is cell renderer? So cell renderer is nothing but a function which allows us to render actual value with formatting. So let's say, let's check the data what we have. Hmm. Let's say we need to show ID plus name as with hyphen connected, just like that, something. So here, let's say I'm creating one more field. Field is my ID. Then let's say header name, user ID. And from API, we are getting only 1, 2, 3 something. But I need to add EMP word before that. So if you can see, currently we are getting 1, 2, 3 up to 10, whatever we have. Let's just move this at the top. Instead of this directly 1, 2, 3, I need to display EMP1, EMP2 like that. So here I need to format the data before rendering. So that is the function we have to use. So that is CellRenderer function. And here, let's say value, whatever the value we get. So let's wrap that with any, because it needs the data type, and the arrow function. And here we need to return the value. Return, let's say emp hyphen and the actual value. So plus value, instead of, let's say, item, because there we will get the value item dot value, right? So let's just save it and let's check. Instead of directly now ID, we should be able to see emp slash whatever the ID we have. So here you can see emp-1, emp-2, whatever the things we are able to see, means we have successfully formatted the data before displaying. So with cell render, you can actually modify the data before rendering it on the UI. So we are done with the cell renderer. Then we have how to add filters like single and multiple. So let's see, like, how do we add the filters? Just so let's say on the name column, we need to enable the filter. So let's say filter value, and let's say true. Let's try this if we get to see the filter or not. Right, so it is not coming. So I think it needs this value, ag text column filter. Let's pass that. So this filter set to true, or we can provide any of this value. So let's pass that value. Now we should get the filter. Still, we are not getting the filter. Why is it? Sorry, on the name we have added, and I was searching over there. So on the name column, we said like filter is on. So let's say we on click of this, we get this small pop-up. Let's say we need to search starting with Glee. So you can see we have got it. Let's try with R. Wherever we have the R, that is available over here. So we can add multiple also. Let's say we need R plus we need M also. So see, only two records where we have R and the M. So just like that, with or, contains, whatever user need to do, contains, equal, does not equal, start with, end with, you don't have to write the coding for that. Everything they have taken care of. Let's move on to next. So this is like single with multiple we have done. Now export. So what things we need to do for exports? Let's go over here. Let's see the export. Where do we have the export? Let me just, okay. So here we will have export. Let it load. So everything code. If you see, I'm also searching from here how to use it. AgGrid is very much used library in case of React and Angular also. So everything they have properly documented. You just have to search it like what you need, go to their implementation, and you just have to do the same thing. So see, here also what they have done, they have created a button. Let's copy their button only. Above the table, we will add that. Now let's create this function. Let's see what they have done. So in export button, I think we will need now aggrid. So the grid API we have to create. So this is the code. Now what is this grid API? Grid API is nothing but a control. What do we get? Like so many functions are there, like on grid ready, on page change, or so many functions are there. All those callbacks we can access by creating object of the grid API. So let's create this just like they have created. So this is what they have added. Let's create this function variable first. It will be any. We have not created any class or interface. Let's add grid API over here. Now, after grid API, we need once if we have to use the grid API, you have to implement the on grid ready function. So that is like this grid ready function. This is nothing but output, just like we create. So let's add it over here. On grid ready, this function also we have to create. And we get the parameter that is event. Let me check what is the parameter. Grid event like this. So let's copy the data type only. Let's make it any. And this event we have to add in the imports also. Now, this grid API, whatever we have added, right? So this should be initialized over here with params.api, means event.api. Then only grid API will be active. Like whatever the control or the object of that component is there, that we are accessing over here, right? Then this export will work. So now let's save and check. So we have already created the button export. On this button click, we are calling this function. And here we are simply writing this .grid API and export data as Excel. So let's just test it. So if I click over here, no, something is not wrong. Let's check what went wrong. In console, we might get one error. No, error is also there. Okay, unable to use grid API, Excel import is not registered. Okay, so instead of that, let's use the CSV Excel. Export as data as CSV. Let's try this. So again, for the export, you need to add one more module to the your import section. So for now, I'm using export as CSV. So now you can see export is downloaded. Right. So just like if you have to use specifically import the Excel, you need to add their import also. That might be provided over here. Let's check if they have provided. No, they have not provided. Okay. So export is done. Let's check what is next. Inline editing. Now inline editing is also very easy. In the column, like what are the columns you need to make it editable? There only you need to provide the specific property that is editable, sorry. And you need to provide the value as true. So if you can see in the field, in the last column, that is email, we have said that this is editable. So let's just save now if it is editable or not. So if we double click, you can see it is editable. So on the double click, you can edit it, but remaining, you can see it is not converting into the text box because on the email column only we have said that it is editable as true, right? So with this simple flag, you can make the column as editable. So this is also done. Row selection. Like let's say I need to select particular rows, right? So we can provide a checkbox over here. So for that, we just have one property that will be on the, we just need to create that, uh, like on which column we need the checkbox selection. So let's say on ID only, we will provide checkbox selection and let's provide true. Let's save and check if with this we are getting the checkbox. Yes. So here you can see we are getting the checkbox. Now, this is like only single select is there. But what if I have to select multiple also? So for that, we need to create one more property. Let's create a variable row selection. Let's provide the value as single or multiple or equal to, why it is single, a column like this. So you need to create a property like this, and this you have to pass it as an input over here for the row selection is equal to, and this you have to pass it over here. What it is saying, single is not accessible to type single, multiple. I spelling mistake, I think it is there. Let's save. Still we are getting the error. Let's go to their site and let's check what went wrong. So that will come in editing. No, sorry, selection. Let's check what went wrong. Row selection. It will take some time to load their proper code. So where it is like this only, no? So let's copy their code only. Row selection. Okay, so it was something error was there. Let's save. Now you can see multiple selection is there. But let's say, just like on the table selection, we need one, what do we say? One checkbox which will select all, right? We have a selection at the, we have a checkbox on the top, and on that selection, we need to select everything here. So let's see if we have that. Row selection, review. Do we have that over here? Still taking time. Let me just find that. So I found that that is nothing but header checkbox selection. So this should be, let's say instead of that, let's provide this value. Let's save. Now this should get a checkbox on in the header. Yes. And we have removed that property, right? So we need both of them, checkbox selection and the header selection also. So now you can see we can select all also and deselect all also. After that, this is also done. Now last thing is like pagination. So how do we implement the pagination? So first thing, like basic pagination, paginator property is there that we need to make it as true. Paginator true. Let's save and check if we get the basic default pagination. So you can see basic pagination we are able to get. Now let's say here you can see page size by default is it 20, 50 and 100 it is coming. But let's say I need to provide my selections, like my options, like what are the options I need to see. So that also you can provide, that is pagination page selector. Pagination page selector, and this is should be array. Let's start with 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 500. Let's save. Let's check if we get those options. So now you can see whatever the options we said that are coming. So now you can see pagination is working. Currently the JSON placeholder has only 10 record, but if you, right? So like this you can do. What else we have? So the basic everything we have covered. Yeah. So the last thing, that pagination, that also we have covered. So basic, this video was main, the purpose was just to explain like how you should use it. Everything it is there. You just need to find it. You can search it from here also, like what you need, export you need, inline editing you need, cell rendering you need, server side filtering you need, whatever you think that you can search it, whatever they are providing, they have well documented everything. You just have to see their example and you have to use it. So that's it with the current video. Please do like and subscribe.